The third initiative is with regards to how we use the metadata standards to improve the data consistency. We use standard definitions, lists, and codes. The fourth one is we want to explain the data characteristics in a better way to users by using a standard schema by use of metadata standards. And I will explain a little bit more on each of these. The first initiative is the Data Quality Assessment Framework. This is the standard that the IMF tells member countries to follow when they report their statistics to us. We want them to give us high quality information. And this is the standard that we tell them to use. And the countries submit the metadata to us following this standard. Every month they send up information about their statistics following that standard framework, and we then keep a review of the comprehensiveness and how comparable it is across countries, and we get back to the countries if we notice that there's something lacking with that. The benefits is that the users are able to get consistent information on a website. We publish the information on a website, and it leads to a better quality of information. And the countries are also held accountable for the metadata because they have to report this to us every month. This is a snapshot of what we call as data quality assessment framework. There are 5 dimensions, as you can see on the top. The first is they have to report the integrity of the statistics, you know, the institutional integrity, the transparency, and the standards. They have to report to us on the methodological soundness, what are the concepts, definitions, scope, what is the basis for recording these statistics. They have to report to us on the accuracy and reliability of their data. They have to give us information about the source, assessment, what kind of statistical techniques they have used, and so forth. They have to report to us about the serviceability of data, you know, what is the periodicity, what is the timeliness and the consistency. They have to report to us about the accessibility, you know, when are the data accessible and when are the metadata accessible, and provide assistance to users. So this is kind of the structure that each country follows when they report metadata to us. So if you open the website and look at any country, it's the same framework that we're using. And this enables users to actually search by these terms to see any particular aspect. The second initiative that I would like to describe in this slide is the Statistical Data and Metadata Exchange. This is a global exchange of data and metadata that we agreed commonly among all international organizations. So the Eurostat, the ECB, the UN, the World Bank, IMF, OECD, all of the institutions are part of this standard. And we have agreed on common data structure definitions. So every country that's reporting using this standard will have a common definition by which they report data and metadata to us. The code lists, the vocabularies that are used will be the same. And by the use of this, we share data at a faster and a cheaper cost as well. These are the institutions that are involved in the Statistical Data and Metadata Exchange project. And this is also an ISO standard, by the way. It's ISO 17369. And these are the institutions that are involved in this standard for data exchange. And it's machine to machine, so it's faster, it's cheaper, and more efficient. The third initiative that I described in this slide about the use of metadata standards is the common vocabularies that we use in our organization. We have something called the Catalog of Time series that has standard names for economic concepts and codes which we use in our data sets, as well as it's used in the Statistical Data Metadata Exchange among all other organizations as well. And this ensures that there's consistent naming conventions and definitions across databases. Here is an example of what is the Catalog of Time series. The concepts are called by common names and codes. The countries have common names and codes, and these are used consistently in every database, both within the IMF as well as in statistical exchanges across organizations. Here is a fourth example of the use of metadata standards on the business side. This is when data is published by the IMF, there is also explanatory text that accompanies the data. And to present this, there's a standard format that we use based on the data quality assessment framework. So whenever the users retrieve the data, they see the metadata or the explanations side by side with the data following a standard scheme, so that for every country that you retrieve, you see the same sorts of information. And here is a screenshot of what we mean by that. So this is a retrieval of consumer prices from the IMF database. And there's explanatory notes about what is the geographical coverage of the data, what is the sectoral coverage. We have several such information bits that we use following the data quality assessment framework. So this is yet another example of the use of metadata standards on the business side. So conclusions, in the IMF, the metadata standardization leads to an improvement in the quality of information because we collect the same types of things from countries and we monitor it on a regular basis. Metadata standardization leads to a better understanding on the part of users because they get the same sorts of structured information along with the data. And it helps us to do a faster and more efficient data exchange by the use of SDMS. So these are some instances on the business side. I know my colleagues here talked about the technical languages that you use for standards and how you implement them in an RDF context. But this here is an explanation of, on the business side, what do we do to develop metadata standards, which then you can use in your programs.